Have you ever walked in a room and completely forgot why you're there? And you reread maybe a sentence 5 times and you still don't know what the heck you read? And you may have been snapping at somebody and they really didn't do anything, and afterwards you feel terribly guilty about it. Or you may even be aware of your physical tension, like your jaws get tight, your shoulders are raising, and everything feels just so much harder when you're trying to move. And that's not just being busy, it's actually your nervous system sounding an alarm. Your brain actually is literally hijacked, and we call it the sympathetic overload or overramping. And most people don't realize stress doesn't just make you feel overwhelmed, it actually rewires your brain. And when it rewires to the stress, it actually shrinks your focus. It steals from your memory. You won't be able to memorize things as well. It slows down your ability to bounce back from setbacks. And if you keep pushing through it, it doesn't just affect your day, it actually affects your longevity as well. And here's the truth though, what I'm going to share today is that your brain is adaptable. With the right inputs, it can change and you can actually rewire it back, and you can feel calm and think clearly again, feel more energized, feel more alive again, and feel really more relaxed. And the way you do it isn't just mindset or motivation. You need a brain-based approach, one that intentionally activates specific brain areas and the nervous system. And that's what I have taught hundreds of my clients over the years. And it's just the way you really can rewire your brain. Welcome, I'm Heike Fallon. I'm a personal high performance coach and a sports therapist, and I help my clients sustain for long term with a brain-based approach, because the brain is a complex system. Actually, the whole body and brain are a complex system with all the different systems in it, and it requires a more complex and holistic approach. In this episode, I'm going to talk about exactly how you can rewire your brain so you can be having that energy again, that focus, and be resilient. And you can start today because you don't need anything for it. You just need yourself and your brain, and you can go. So let's kind of jump in and actually let's talk a little bit how the brain is under stress. So because it's not just in your head, when your brain perceives a threat, whether it's like a deadline at work or a packed, schedule back to back, or you have a really tough conversation, it actually activates your amygdala. And that's the brain's emotional system, or one part of it. And its job is really to keep you safe. So when danger is detected, it will alert your body to response. And once it's overly active, your prefrontal cortex up here, where your logical thinking is, your decision making, actually can't function as well anymore because the amygdala is overly ramped up or activated. So if you're trying to, it's kind of like when you're trying to solve a complex problem and the fire alarm keeps beeping, and you can absolutely not focus then on your task, and you can't physically think clearly in that moment. And that's why under stress, you make more impulsive decisions. You might be overreacting. You might feel maybe foggy because you're actually in survival mode. Your brain is trying to keep you alive, and it's just survival mode. So to be clear though, not all stress is bad. We need stress. We need stress to grow. It actually stimulates our brain. The problem is when stress becomes chronic. That means when the nervous system doesn't really get a chance to recover, and your body can't recover, and then actually brain structures start to change. And you can actually see that on brain scans. The hippocampus, for example, that part of the brain that stores memories and helps you learn, they've seen that it shrinks, and certain pathways in your prefrontal cortex start to weaken. And at the same time, the amygdala, as I said, gets more activation, and it actually gets more sensitive. And so the more, and here's the thing, you get better at what you do, right? So the more stressed you are, the better your brain gets at being stressed and staying stressed. And neuroscientists call it actually stress hardwiring. And that's why actually at that point, coping strategies like pushing through or waiting for the weekend aren't actually working anymore, because they don't really change the wiring. And the good news though is the brain has plasticity, means it can change, it can rewire, and we can actually do specific exercises to rewire the brain again. So I'm going to share 5 science-based tools or exercises that I teach all my high achieving clients, and they're not just some quick hacks or something. These are actual nervous system interventions, and they're pretty fast, they're effective. The key is though, you can do them at any time, but you also have to do them, because if you don't do them consistently, they will not rewire your brain. In order to rewire your brain, you have to do things consistently. That's what's really creating that powerful outcome of these strategies. So let's start with the vagus nerve. It's a nerve that actually originates in the brainstem, and it's a big part of our parasympathetic system, so the rest and digest system. There's lots of different exercises we can do to activate the vagus nerve. You can actually Google that too, but one great way to do is breathing exercises. And people that are stressed are usually not breathing correctly anymore. All you need to really do is very simple. Do an inhale for 4 seconds through the nose and an exhale for 8 seconds. And then just repeat that. Now, all kinds of other breathing exercises can be great too. So if you're more advanced, yes, box breathing and other things may help as well, very well, depending on what works for you. But if you're starting, I always recommend just make your exhale a little longer than your inhale. So you're going to inhale through the nose. I recommend 4 or 5 seconds, and then 7 to 8 seconds exhaling, and then kind of assess how you feel afterwards. Do you feel calmer? I like to also lie down when I'm doing this, sometimes when it's very stressful, because it feels like really great to close your eyes, not having to be standing or lying down, and just focusing on a nice, good breathing using the belly. So when you inhale, you're expanding the belly, and when you exhale, you feel the belly kind of going back in, right? And inhale, so you're not doing that with your shoulders, but you're doing it with your belly, so using your diaphragm. And if you can, you might even consider really expanding in all different directions, not just the belly. So you feel like the back here as well. It won't be as much, but that's when you really use the diaphragm to inhale, and then long exhale. Fantastic. And if you do that again frequently, consistently, you get better at it. And then in very stressful situations, you can actually refer back to this kind of breathing. And because you practice ahead of time, when it's not so stressful, you can actually calm your nervous system down very quickly. Another great exercise is a stimulus of the vestibular system. That's your inner ear. It's what is needed to balance, but also in general for motion perception, but also to make us feel grounded. And so very important. So if you get motion sickness very easy, you definitely have a challenged vestibular system, and so you definitely want to train that. What I recommend to do is an assessment. You can again just check in how you feel. If you're super stressed, you can use that as an assessment, but you may also do a different assessment. I'm going to show it right now. It's a range of motion assessment. You're going to have your feet flat on the ground, and you're going to rotate to both sides. Do that a few times, and then you're going to hold it. Feet are still on the ground, and you're going to look over your thumbs and see how far you get, and you rotate the other side. And I have a lamp on this side. That's how far I can rotate, and on this side I got a cabinet, so I know roughly where I'm at. If the next drill that we're doing is a good positive input to your system, you will get more range of motion. If it's a threat, you will actually have less range of motion. And we want to make sure you do an exercise when you're stressed that calms you down, that is a positive input, right? A good input to your system at that moment, right? Because essentially you want to be able to do this no matter what. But if you're stressed, it might be a little bit more challenging. Or if you have a weakened vestibular system, then you for sure might need to do it seated, or you might have to do it really slow to get started. So make sure you assess, and then we're going to do the drill here in a minute, and then we're going to reassess again. So look at a target. So I'm going to use my camera, but you can also use your thumb and hold your thumb up at eye level, and you're just going to look at it. You're going to make sure you keep breathing. I'm going to use my camera because it's easier for you to see. So I'm going to be just standing nice and tall, and I'm rotating my head side to side while my eyes are staying on the camera. And make sure you're breathing, and make sure you have your shoulders relaxed. And again, not too fast. And then reassess. So I'm standing at the same spot, and I'm definitely rotating further. So for me, that was a good input to the brain. So that means it helps me calm down, so it's not a threat response. You may also practice doing this faster or slower and see if faster or slower has a better input for you, because everybody's different. So we don't know. But activating the vestibular system can help tremendously for grounding ourselves and can help tremendously with stress. The next exercise I'm sharing is called the interoception scan. And interoception just means the sensation from within. And oftentimes when we're stressed, we're so we're so in fight and flight mode that we're not even paying attention. Most of my clients don't even realize that their shoulders are up, that they tense. They don't even know how they really feel, except everything is too much. So this is just to practice the awareness of how you're feeling. Where are things tight? So what I recommend, again, you can do an assessment with the range of motion, like we just did on the one before, or you can use sensation, a scale 1 to 5, for example, how you feel, and then assess that afterwards. So what I would like you to do now is, again, seated or standing, up to you. Stand, close your eyes, and just breathe, inhaling through your nose, exhaling through your mouth. And then do a quick scan. Is there an area that feels particularly tight? How relaxed are your feet? Are you curling your toes? Is there tension under your feet? How are your knees? Are they like soft, or you lock them? And if they're locked or tight, kind of soften them a little bit. Then how does your pelvis feel? How is everything around the hips? How is it around the belly? Chest, do you feel like you're tight here in the front? Or do you feel like really relaxed here? Check your fingers. That's usually a big one too. If you're under stress, you might kind of curl your fingers in. Kind of wiggle your fingers and see how those are. So check for tension. Check how it feels. And then do a few more breaths. And then open your eyes and reassess. Now, ideally you want to do this longer. But you're going to reassess again. And that was actually still a little better for me as well. Oh, that was actually still a little better for me as well. So this builds your interoceptive awareness, and it's really the ability to feel your inside. And when you get better at this, you're actually able to catch maybe a little earlier when you're feeling really stressed, because the goal is really to not become completely stressed out, burned out, overwhelmed, but actually recognizing ahead of time that it's building up. So if you can check in more often with yourself, that would be helpful. The next one is a great one if you feel like you can't think straight and you need to really get back to focus, and it's called the cross-crawl reset. And it really activates both sides of the brain, because you're doing a crossover. You're going to touch your knee with your hand, opposite. And again, I would do a quick assessment, either range of motion. Okay, I'm already doing pretty well here, but we'll see. Or you check in with how you feel. But the key is you're alternating, bringing knee up and touch the opposite hand on the knee. So right hand, left knee, and opposite. And you just walk like this, doing a cross crawl. You can also do the elbows if you want a little more intense. And then you also kind of speed it up, and you might also go really slow. And you do that for at least 30 seconds, and you actually might be surprised how much that helps your focus and clear thinking again. Do a quick reassessment afterwards. Yep. So I got even further, but sometimes even when it's not further, but you feel it being much lighter rotation, that is means also that it was a great input for your brain at that time. The last one that I'm sharing is called intention anchoring with a visual focus. I know, sounds kind of long. No, not a better one for that. But basically, we're pairing intention setting with focus. And so for that, you can hold the thumb again in front of you, and you're just going to stare at it, and or find a point at the wall or across, and just take a good breath and literally choose an intention. So for example, I'm going to stay calm and focused for this next task, or I'm going to stay calm and focused for the next 30 minutes. And just keep looking at it. I'm going to use the camera right now. Or let me use my thumb so it's more clear. So I am staying calm and focused. I am staying calm and focused for the next 30 minutes. And you can also close your eyes, and whatever intention you need will help you, but also by looking at one point, you're actually bringing in your visual focus to that point, and so eliminating peripheral vision for a moment helps you to really anchor that down, and it will help you to be less stressed, maybe also more productive for the next task or 30 minutes that you will do. Now, this intention setting might feel kind of new to you, and keep in mind though, it has a brain-based background. So when we are doing a self-talk, we're actually activating a particular area in the brain, and that helps the brain to pay attention, because whatever we're talking, the brain will focus again. So by declaring an intention, you will tell your brain what matters most, and it will focus on that. So it actually works. So give it a try, even if it seems kind of new to you. So anyways, these are great tools, and let's be real, they only work if you do them consistently, because if you're not doing them, it's not going to do anything, right? If you want to try to play the piano and you play occasionally, you're not going to get really good at it. So the key is do it consistently. Chunk it to something that you're already doing. So meaning you can do it while, like the breathing exercise, for example, you can do while you're making your coffee. You can do some intention setting while you're brushing your teeth, for example. You also want to make sure you don't think of it too big. Keep it always kind of in small steps. We call it like micro scaling. So it should not be really like this big, long exercise program. You should really just integrate a minute or 2 or 5 in between throughout the day. And otherwise, also, if you really struggle with consistency, what really works great is to chunk it or stack it to something that you're already doing. So every time after finishing a Zoom call, you're gonna do the breathing exercise, or after lunch you're going to do this. So whatever you already have in your schedule on a daily basis, you just add it to that. Highly recommend to always reflect on how it's going, and tracking your stress, actually tracking your stress level. Track it, how it's in the morning, midday, in the evening, and that will for sure help you to really manage your stress level better, because again, stress isn't bad, it's just when it's constantly there and you're not managing your energy at the same time. So here's another thing that I've seen in my practice over the years is that people don't just struggle with the stress, but they actually end up struggling with their belief, the belief about themselves, because they talk to themselves in ways like, say, I can't handle pressure, I'm not resilient, or I'm always overwhelmed, or this is always stressing me out. And once we have that kind of self-talk, we kind of prepped ourselves already in that thinking, and then that will actually happen. Like I said, the brain gets really good at what you practice a lot. And so it's very important to for the rewiring, to also paying attention to how you talk to yourself. So you may want to change a little bit how you talk about yourself. So meaning, okay, I'm feeling overwhelmed right now, but I can manage that by doing an exercise. Or I can, if I do this breathing exercise, I will not feel overwhelmed. So you can change that with the settled kind of shift in your self-talk, and that really goes a long way. So someone who leads themselves really well, even in the hard moments, is what we consider really good wired for resilience. And that's super important for longevity. So last thing I want to share today is, and I like doing that, kind of like a weekly check-in. You can call it the Sunday reset. And what you do is you really reflect on the week, right? I usually do that on a daily basis. So what drained me today, but you can do it on a weekly basis. Then you want to also look at what helped you to restore, right? What worked well for you. And once you have those two figure out how you can, or what you want to focus on the following week. And don't forget to also celebrate your accomplishment. So even if you haven't done as much, even any little thing that you may have shifted or started changing is worth a celebration, because that's activating our reward system, dopamine release, and that helps us really well for motivation and consistency. So keep implementing these strategies. Start small, build it up, and rewire your brain. And the truth is, stress will happen. It will happen all the time. It is also a good thing, but we also need to really figure out how to manage the stress, manage the energy. And when the deadlines are piling up and things are getting kind of out of control and crazy, we have to be able to implement a strategy and have the right self-talk for ourselves to really get through that with a lot more calm and steady way. And steady is really a big part of longevity as well. So pick one tool today. Don't do them all at once. Pick one tool. Figure out where you're going to put it in your calendar. If you're going to chunk it or stack it to something else. And you know, the most important thing of all is really trust that your brain wants to heal. It's, you know, it's with the right inputs and the right consistency, the inputs will actually rewire your brain. So thank you for being here. Thank you that you have interest in learning, but also implementing for your own health and your personal performance and your longevity. Until next time, and I love to hear what strategies work for you, so please comment below.